Today was one of the more hectic days in this business, at least for me. Maybe you'll find out why in a couple of days, but it was. And it didn't stop with Jay Johnson going back into the portal. That's why you probably need to try to watch every show, because if you were listening last night and you caught the big hint of, hey, you might see the finalization of what Jay's going to do. Looks like Jay might get some big news tonight at 10. We will see. We put some stuff on the message board. Go over there. 3 months, $3. Just saying. AYSSnetwork.com/forum. So we'll talk about here tonight. Obviously, Jay Johnson continuing on his portal path. We're not going to stay particularly long there. Let the commitment happen. Here are some guys that, LSU has courted in the last couple of days or weeks or whatever it may be. Let the kid make his decision. Nobody wants to talk about it, fine. But you got to talk about it sometimes. Gonna let the kid make his decision. If you've seen on social media, I'm just going to leave that alone. We will touch on it. Some things that Jay needs, some things that I think he's got to continue to go after. But, man, you're pretty much done. I mean, look, you're pretty much done here. So I think the rounding out of this roster is very much here. So we'll touch on that here tonight. We'll continue on going down LSU's schedule. So we've talked about every team so far through halfway through the season. Tonight, we go to Kyle Field. Tonight, we go to Texas A&M. And what's interesting is a lot of people have had questions about Texas A&M this year. So does everybody else. And that's what we'll touch on as we continue down the path of going through every single game in the preseason. Texas A&M Aggies, a deep dive on them. So looking forward to that. Oh, and by the way, I might need to go on a little rant here. Typical day in sports. I'm not sure if y'all saw this today, but someone, and I know who this guy is because he's constantly going after Jaden Daniels, but Joe _ NFL on Twitter. Apparently he says he's a film guy, a keeper of the real. That's when you know he sucks. And one day I want to be an NFL executive. I use my evals to bet on football games. So I guess this guy's like a media content creator. He's been very viral over the last couple of 6 months. He said some really crazy things. But if you watch the HBO doc series, Hard Knocks, which, by the way, I freaking love this new Hard Knocks season, the off season with the New York Giants. You got to see the draft of Jaden Daniels in the film room. You got to see Malik Neighbors in the film room, in the meeting room, one-on-one at the draft, how that went. And he said, Jaden, and this guy Joe on Twitter said, this dude Joe, or this guy Jaden, doesn't look good on the board. Jaden looked bad on the board, on the whiteboard, calling out a play. Well, what happened? Can we give a little bit of context? What was the context? Well, the context was, even though they clipped some things out of Jaden when he said, I'll probably throw a touchdown, he gave the explanation of the touchdown. I'm going to throw it to Malik Neighbors in an inside fade slot in the back of the end zone because he's our favorite player. By the way, that's who the Giants selected, by the way. Why do you think Jaden had anything to do with that too? Hey, Jaden, how good is Malik Neighbors? He's really freaking good. I've never in my life seen a quarterback get bashed this much by media, by, I gotta be real, even our own fan base to some extent. Drake May looked great on the chalkboard, Blake. Drake May was exceptional. Then why did Drake May lose games that he had absolutely no business losing and look like he had no idea what was going on at times last year? Does he have traits? Sure. But Brian Daboll, and I'm sure you've seen the video. I can't play it for obvious reasons. But Brian Daboll told him to move all the receivers around. So Jaden Daniels, who called the play that his favorite play was what he drew up last year or on the whiteboard from last year, and it was called a certain way. They were putting pressure on him. Jaden Daniels did more than fine on the whiteboard. More than fine. Jaden, why are you throwing the inside fade? And let me tell you this. Brian Daboll was actually picking Jaden Daniels' brain. This is what people don't understand about football. Brian Daboll, the head coach who was in there doing the interview, I hope that you've all seen this video. But when Brian Daboll is asking Jaden, who was the most prolific quarterback in the country last year, on the most prolific offense in the country last year, hey, why did y'all, basically what he was asking, why did y'all throw those inside slot fades all the time? And what was Jaden Daniels' answer? It was because I had Malik Neighbors. And basically what Jaden said was, fuck it, Malik Neighbors is down there somewhere, is what he said. In translation. That's why it was my favorite play. I'm getting my number one receiver, the best receiver in all of football, or all of college football, in man-to-man coverage. He's not going to get, nobody's going to stop him. Nobody did. Oh, he didn't look good on the whiteboard. Well, none of those other sons of bitches can run 23 miles an hour either. He was fine, more than fine. You know what else it told me about Jaden? Give me a thumbs up in the chat if y'all saw this. Give me that thumbs in the chat if y'all saw this clip today. I think I might be losing some people. But it's just been all over the place. The tweet got like, what was it, guys? 16 million views? 16 million views. I know that you know what I'm talking about. Jaden, why the fuck did you throw the inside fade? And it was actually, I tweeted this out last night. You got to follow us on Twitter too. I tweeted this last night. You want to go a deep dive into LSU offense last year? Last night you got it. For all you people that wanted a deep dive in Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, the real shit. Like last night, they asked Malik Neighbors, Brian Daboll asked, hey, does it bother you not touching the football early in the game? And what did Malik Neighbors say? Hell yeah, it does. Yeah, he was. Guys, the Giants drafted him. A lot of what they went on with Jaden Daniels was about Malik. And here was the context of all of it. If you watched the episode last night, when the Giants front office got into the meeting with all the big-time players that were at the draft, do you know what Brian Daboll's first words of his mouth were? He talked to his GM and said, hey, have you seen this LSU kid, this wide receiver? And then the GM says, do you mean Brian Thomas, the other one? He goes, shit, no, Neighbors. He goes, that son of a bitch is fantastic. He's elite. I've been watching him all day. They were not fishing for Jaden because they knew that Jaden was going to be gone. In the context of it, it's why the GM of the Giants, then literally his next move is to go up to number 3. If he wanted to get a quarterback, he wanted to go up to 3. They knew Jaden wasn't going to be there. They weren't trading up to go get Jaden. With all due respect, they were never going to trade. They even talk about them not trading up unless it was to 3 with New England. Because they knew that Washington and Chicago was going to take a quarterback. Here's the truth, though. Here's the truth. You know who the worst on the big board was? And not shit got clipped of it? Caleb Williams was the worst on the whiteboard. They asked you, Brian Daboll asked Caleb Williams, why did you run this? Because I could. But they don't want to talk about their poster child. Listen to your boy. Listen to me when I tell you this. No other LSU athlete in my lifetime has taken more shit than Jaden Daniels. He even said it so himself because Brian Daboll asked him in the interview in the Hard Knocks clip, hey, when you come to New York and things don't go well, how are you going to take the pressure? And you know what Jaden Daniels' first words were? Because I played in Death Valley. That's why. And you know what? He's talking about all you sons of bitches that were questioning him. You had media in 22. Bitch him for Nussmeier. Bitch him. Y'all remember all this. Jaden's not taking a shot at the fan base, but a lot of you were taking shots at him, and a lot of you hadn't gone to him and apologized. So I sit here in the beginning of the show to say, I've just never look, listen, Angel Reese takes a lot of shit from the media. Fine, she brings, a lot of it comes upon herself when she thinks that she says. It's a different kind of come at. Pause. They're coming at her at a different angle. Everything that people have talked about Jaden, they talked about his physical ability. They talked about his goddamn elbow. They talked about him being too little. They said that, he runs too quick out of the pocket. Well, fuck, I would too. By the way, to all of the NFL people that are out there, to all you fake fantasy football bitches, okay, to all of you, Lamar Jackson is a 2-time MVP. Let me say that again. Lamar Jackson is a 2-time NFL MVP. Do you think he runs? Because if he does, then my God, I must have missed something. This is the shit that bugs me to death. And it shouldn't. It should not bug me to death the way that it does, but it sure as hell does. Listen, I am done with the Jaden Daniels slander from any media account that's out there. Because it feels like every single time that we're talking about one of the quarterbacks that got drafted in the last NFL draft, majority of the heat comes down upon Jaden Daniels. His elbow, his size, he's too slight. He's going to get hurt. He can't run like that in the NFL. But nobody wants to talk about the Caleb Williams mishaps. Nobody wants to talk about what he looked like on the whiteboard. Did Drake May look really good on the whiteboard? Yes. But here's the thing about the whiteboard. The game's not played on it. The game then goes out onto the field and you have to play it. And Drake May had some bad slip-ups last year. No matter how you want it, you can like the kid. I like the kid. But it's wild to me that you look at a kid like J.J. McCarthy, who, by the way, was the best on the whiteboard without question, having to learn Harbaugh's offense. But are you going to sit here and tell me that J.J. McCarthy is a better overall quarterback than Jaden Daniels? And if you do, you're a goddamn buffoon. This is why I don't like the NFL. Because you got a rando who just says whatever. He talks about Jaden Daniels being a bust. And look, he could be right. I think that there is nothing that Jaden Daniels has proven that would tell you otherwise. Here is the real truth. Hear me out. LSU has produced a quarterback that has been at the school for 2 years and won a Heisman. How good is Joe Burrow? Now, Joe's had some injuries, but I don't worry about Joe. That son of a bitch he's a psychopath. I don't worry about him. I just don't worry about him. I don't know. Craig, Craig, I see I see your comment there. I'm not going to read it. I shouldn't have said that. But guys, I used to come out here every night and get pissed off. But I just got to admit, this shit pisses me off. It pisses me off. I really wish this fan base would. I wish they would defend him like they do Joe at times. Because look, in 10 years, bro, in 10 years, we're going to be talking shit. In 5 years, 3 years, we're going to be talking about Jaden Daniels, man, in such a different form and light. Guys, Jamarcus Russell has been here. You've had national championship quarterbacks that have been here. None on the prestige as Burrow and Daniels. Guys, Jaden Daniels, more than likely. Here's the God's honest truth. Guys, and I've said this nauseously at times. Jaden Daniels is the second best LSU football player of all time, in my opinion. Do you not remember what happened last year? Are you incapable of thought? Like, guys, Jaden was a product of everything around him offensively. He also was a product of everything bad that happened to his team last year defensively. We came in here last year during the offseason. Jaden's got to throw the ball down the field more. Y'all remember those conversations? Jaden's got to come in here and throw the ball down the field more. And I'm old enough to remember in the 22 offseason when a lot of you legitimately had people out here that don't even go to practices that would come out here and try to tell us, who are mega fan accounts who will never amount to anything, would come out here and say, hey, Miles Brennan will be the starter. And you made yourselves look like a fool. If your own high school doesn't have football, you might want to shut the fuck up. But it comes to the point. It blows my mind how stupid and ignorant people can be. Blows my mind. All right. We got much more to discuss. I'm sure you want to know who's going to be committing at 10. We'll talk about it. I'm going to give you some players. I'm not going to ruin this kid's publicly. Not going to ruin this kid's commitment. All right. Craig Fry says, I'd go a step further and say he carried a bigger load than any player in LSU history. I don't know about that part. You know, Craig, I don't know about that part specifically. I mean, when you're playing for a national title, I think it's a big deal and a massive, weight to carry on yourself. But I know what you mean. I know what you mean. And I do agree. I mean, guys, he had a think about this. Guys, there were times last year. This is no bullshit. What if I would have told you last offseason that Jaden Daniels, okay, would in the Ole Miss game and in the Missouri game have to go 25 straight passes, damn near a 95% completion percentage for LSU to have a chance to win. Now, let me put this in context. There were 2 times that Jaden Daniels had 20 straight, I think it was like close to 20 straight completions. I know against Ole Miss, he was 22 of 25 from the first quarter on. At Missouri, remember, guys, wasn't it 22 straight passes that Jaden Daniels completed? 18, or what was it, 8 against Alabama, and then 9 straight after that? Guys, there were moments that he had to be perfect so that you could stay in the game and remotely have a chance of winning. That's how bad you were defensively. Golly, man. Golly. The Making Moves podcast, our good buddy Tyler Alexander over at LPT Realty too. I've been telling you last 2 nights, go to this podcast right here. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, notification bell. Right now, they're right here at Making Moves. 225. But a good buddy Tyler says CR needs to have a daddy son job shadow day with Jay. So Corey Raymond needs to follow around Jay Johnson to learn how to recruit again. That's funny. Oh boy. It's true. He didn't lie. It's very true. All right. Thank you, Tyler. Go to Making Moves podcast at Making Moves 225. Subscribe. Tyler and Darren do a fantastic job over there. I've listened to every one of them. Love them. I mean, guys, I have a small business. You may have a small business. By the way, you might be looking to list your home, sell your home. They are phenomenal at what they do. All right, let's get to it. I got no time to waste. Talk about our good friend Tyler Alexander over at LPT Realty, our good friends over at betonline.ag, and our good friends over at J&J Exterminate. Lots to get into. Stay with us. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events, with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Louisiana is unique. The food, the festivals, even the bugs. No, not mud bugs. Unwanted bugs like these. The ones you don't want crawling in your home or business. Trust the Shield from J&J Exterminating. We've been protecting Louisiana homes for over 50 years, earning the trust of our clients because we deliver what we promise. Protect your home from pests. Get the Shield from J&J Exterminating.
J&J Exterminating. Yeah. We're back.
So Jay Johnson sent out the bat signal today via Twitter by sending out the tiger emoji. And it's like what I say every time that when he does it. The fan base goes crazy. I do too. Because let me tell you something, man. Well, I don't know how many times I have to say this, but that man is relentless at what he does. This fan base legitimately will give you so much shit, but there's just not a harder worker from your head coach than Jay Johnson of anybody in any other sport on that campus. Nobody is more harder working at their job than Jay is. And no, Tyler. No, I got distracted by a text. Nevertheless, Jay did send out the bad signal. Now, there are a couple guys that I do think that they could be after, just some names to keep your eyes on. I am not spoiling this kid's commitment. It's been very well known that about not spoiling it, I'm not going to do it. Here are some guys that I think, or positions that I think could be at play. I think a weekend starter is clearly somebody that you could go after. You know, Anthony Iacin has been somebody that's been on campus. He published it on his Instagram. Somebody that a lot of people have tried to get. into their program, a guy that can be a Friday night starter. You know, he's made trips to Tennessee, he's made trips to Texas, he's made trips to Florida, he's made trips to LSU. Guys, basically the entire SEC that really and truly matters is where Anthony Iacin went. And you know what's interesting? What's interesting in that is, man, you're talking about Texas with Schloss, Jay Johnson at LSU, Tony V at Tennessee, and Sully, of all people, at Florida, all wanting this kid. That is a lot of really good offers from a lot of really good teams to play in the SEC. So Anthony Iacin is someone that I'm watching out for. It's not the only person that I'm watching out for, and I think this next guy is what a lot of people are going to keep their eyes out on for too. That being Cade Fisher from Florida. Now, Fisher, his freshman year, when he was at Florida, LSU fans should remember him. I think he came into the game and struck out Dylan Cruz, then struck out Trey Morgan. I mean, the kid was electric in Omaha. Got a really good arm. He's had a lot of appearances, over 50 appearances at Florida. He started. He's been in the bullpen. He's a high strikeout guy, high intensity guy, really good lefty. Kind of reminds me of the attitude that Griffin Herring can give you when he's coming out of the pen. But Cade Fisher has been someone that a lot of people will continue to keep their eyes on where he could go. There's been talk that LSU has talked to him. I've talked to people that are very close to that situation. Now, I do think the Cade Fisher situation is very interesting because I do think that Vandy, and Tim Corbin has started to come around a little bit when it comes to getting some NIL funds in place. Now, the crazy thing is that there is money in Nashville that wants Vanderbilt to win, specifically in baseball, and they don't mind spending a little. Not like what you have or anything crazy. I do wonder if Cade Fisher doesn't look at Vandy after some current situations, and Vandy was, I think they're the left-handed pitcher that they wanted. Went back to Michigan State. There's so many different things that play into a Cade Fisher to Vandy. Do I think that there's a chance? Yeah, I think that there's a chance, only because of Jay Johnson. And I'm never, ever going to count that man out when it comes to recruiting. I don't care if the kid himself says, hey, I'm committing somewhere else. I will always believe in Jay Johnson until the shoe falls. Always until the shoe falls will I trust in Jay Johnson to legitimately get the job done. That's not the only one I've focused in on. Nevada catcher DH Nolan Wilson has been someone that I've also been keeping my eyes on out for some time. Look, Wilson is a guy that in Nevada last year, where actually Jay coached before too, hit 323, 7 home runs, 50 RBIs, struggled early in the year behind the dish. You know, the statistics of it. I think he had some issues, maybe throwing some guys out. We will see. I don't know if the kid's going to come here. Do I think that you honestly do need a backup catcher or a guy that can come in and be that dude if you need him to be a defensive guy? Yes. I have not heard a lot on Nolan Wilson yet. Not yet. So we will see. There are some other names that are out there that some think are realistic, like Cam Clayton from Washington, their shortstop, who was the Pac-12 defender of the year last season. Not an overly great bat, but fantastic glove. Kind of the opposite of what you've had the last 2 years to some extent. I mean, yes, Jordan Thompson had a hose, but my man had some really difficult moments with the glove and his arm. So I don't know where Cam Clayton's going. I haven't heard much on him either. But here's what I do know. I do think that you could look for maybe another bat. I think that you could maybe even look for maybe a pretty solid defender. I think you'll continue to look for arms. I don't think that you can have enough arms. Legitimately, I do not think that you could have enough arms. So, we'll see on that. but Jay Johnson's not done. And I think before school starts or before camp start or football camp starts, here's how I believe things will go. I believe that Jay at max will get in maybe 3 more dudes. Now that could change. He could legitimately get very damaged by the draft. I think Jay has a pretty good understanding, or the staff has a pretty good understanding of who's going, who's staying, who's coming in. And we'll see. Now, we've talked about a guy like William Schmidt. It's just definitely something to keep our eyes out on. I think LSU has assembled a lot of really, really solid talent. Very solid talent. So it's going to be interesting to see. So those are a couple of names that we have, there have been whispers out there on. Let's see what happens tonight at 10. Gave you a little bit of a hint, a pretty big hint, in the message board. So you can go over there, ayssnetwork.com/forum. All right. I have not gotten to a lot of your comments. Let's get to some of them here. Mike Scarborough, who will be live at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, if I'm not mistaken, says, the great ... See, I know internally what he's saying. I don't know if he wants me to necessarily say it out loud. But he's being very petty. He's being very, very, very petty. The great ... Yes, indeed. Elwin says, tripping over docks fishing. I want to go duck hunting. I've been fishing. I want somebody to take me duck hunting. Marcus says, at least tell us if it's an A&M player that hit the portal. It is not. It is not. A lot. Who was that? Marcus. A lot of those guys went back to A&M when Early got hired. And I told you this then. I'll tell you this now. I mean, hiring their hitting coach brought all those guys back, and good for A&M. Made a very shitty situation turned around very quickly when Early got the head job. Now it's just going to be on to, can they sustain? Can he sustain? He's going to have money to sustain. He's certainly going to have the money to sustain. So we'll see. Chad says, I think LSU is getting the lefty from Florida. That would shake up the SEC. Yes, it would shake up the SEC, but that's not what the 64 analytic guys were talking about. They were talking about, it would appear that they were talking about, now that it's all said and done, that it was kind of more of a nothing burger. But they let people, I like the guys over at 64 Analytics. I think they're really good. I think people thought it was going to be something juicier than it was. I don't think it was as juicy. They came out and said it was the Vandy, the guy that had transferred to Vandy that went back to Michigan State. I don't know. Like, I legitimately don't know if that's a earth-shattering in the SEC, but or will send ripples to the SEC. But they explained their ripple was that the guy the left-handed pitcher that committed to Vandy, him going back to Michigan State affects Cade Fisher, which affects the SEC because LSU's on him, Tennessee's on him, Texas is on him, A&M is on him. That's what they said the ripple was. Now, there were some other things that came out in all of this thing about people speculating that might have gotten an SEC head coach in trouble. But that's deep down rumors, nothing that needs to come to the surface of a light. And if it does, then I will tell you this. Baseball coaches are dumb. Some of them. Ooh. So, yeah. Gerald says, it's that time again where I lock into my guy every evening to talk football. Sorry I missed your comments on this, but what is your realistic win-loss total? Yeah, So look, man, we don't get a lot of people leave during football season and they come back. I've been seeing a lot of y'all trickle in, and what's interesting, we actually have 712 people in here right now, which is kind of fun on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I have not, Gerald. To your question, we'll get to we're going to get to breaking down the Texas A&M game, LSU versus A&M. We'll do an A&M deep dive about that opponent. Look, man, I have not given one. I've kind of hinted around one, but I've given one big caveat. I want to see him in August. I want to see him in camp. I want to see them with everything that they have at full force. So if you ask me, gun to my head at the current moment, where do I think you are? At the current moment, I think that you're a 9-3 team right on the surface of getting into a playoff. That's where I think you would be. Do I think that there is room to grow in that? Yes. Guys, your defensive line, okay? Your interior defensive line, like I see somebody in the comments here, Spectrum Wellcare, says Chemo going to surprise at DT. No, let me not say no, he's not. There's nothing that he has done at the current moment that would lead you to believe that. He's an offensive lineman moving to D lineman. That is a big question mark. And you would say, man, how crazy was it? LSU was down really bad in the defensive tackle room, and then Kimo Macanole saved them. That would be a one of those college football whirlwinds of like, damn, we talked about all offseason that they were bad, and this kid's been really good. There's nothing for you to believe that at the current moment. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but just saying, and I see a lot, and this is what LSU fans do all the time. I warn you about this every offseason. We look at a kid saying, oh, well, he's had a whole offseason. He should be better. You mean like what happened last year defensively? Because you had 3 defensive linemen drafted. 3 defensive linemen drafted. You've had 5 defensive linemen drafted. Jaquelin Roy, B.J. Ojolari, Mekhi Wingo, Jordan Jefferson, and Mason Smith. 5 of them. I feel like I'm Booker T doing this. 5 defensive linemen drafted, and that's the product that you produced last year. Only so much of that is scheme. Because if you're going to line up and play, then you're going to line up and play. Getting your ass whooped is getting your ass whooped, dog. Sorry. But they ain't on the field coaching. Now, do you have better coaches? Yes, I agree with you there. But you can't come in here and talk about give a hot take and say, oh, well, we have better coaches, so this guy's going to be better. You don't know that. What have we seen? We've seen the guys on the field at the current, at least I have seen the guys on the currently on the team. I saw them, 7 practices that I went to during spring? Hell no. Guys, there was a reason that they went all out to try to go into the transfer portal and get defensive linemen. Why do you think that is? Why are their actions of going and doing everything that they need to do at DT, but when I say it, you want to come in here and argue? No, their actions told you this. It's not Blake Ruffino that was just saying it. They were bad along the interior of defensive linemen. Here's the truth. Patty smacked. All right. It's true. Got Patty smacked. All right. Let's get to a quick break. Gerald does say, so is it fair to think the offense is going to carry the team early on? I think you gotta think that. And I specifically think your offensive line and running game. Because, I mean, like, think about this. Michael Turner from John Curtis is someone that people think that can come in and play now. That's what they think. I don't know if that's true or not. I have no clue. PJ Woodland came in as a freshman and started. I'm just saying, man. Just saying. All right. Let's get to a quick break. We're back next. We do a Texas A&M deep dive. We continue on LSU schedule. We do that. Stay with us. Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with a great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirement.
Louisiana is unique. The food, the festivals, even the bugs. No, not mud bugs. Unwanted bugs like these. The ones you don't want crawling in your home or business. Trust the Shield from J&J Exterminating. We've been protecting Louisiana homes for over 50 years, earning the trust of our clients because we deliver what we promise. Protect your home from pests. Get the Shield from J&J Exterminating.
J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
J&J has protected Louisiana homes and businesses for over 60 years.
Call him today, make the pests go away. J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
All right. So we continue on our path of breaking down every single game on LSU schedule. We've mainly focused in on the teams that LSU play, and we've gone in order of the season. So tonight we land on Texas A&M. Now we've gone through Ole Miss. You know what I think about them. We've gone through South Carolina. We've gone through so many teams like Arkansas, who I just think, man, there's just no way that you can lose to them. Now it's a rivalry game, and you're LSU. You could always slip up to them. But tonight we land in Kyle Field. We talk about the Texas A&M Aggies. Look, I do think that Texas A&M, for what it's worth, is one of the more intriguing teams in the SEC to me. Now, I know what you're going to say. Blake, they suck. Kevin Sumlin, Jimbo Fisher, they've underperformed. They're Texas 8-4. They're the Aggies. They're always going to be the same. And I don't know that if in year one that they're not under Mike Elko. Mike Elko does not have a lot of head coaching experience, and he surely doesn't have a lot of head coaching experience in this conference. But what have they done? Guys, they went into the transfer portal and got a lot of really good players to add into some guys that are already there. You know, I look at their offense as an example. Connor Wegman returns. Le'Veon Moss, Armani Daniels, Ruben Daniels returns. Moose Muhammad, to me, the receiver, doesn't get enough love that maybe he should. The 6'1", 205-pound senior, I thought had some really big flashes last year. Like I went back earlier this week when I knew that we were going to talk about A&M today. And I remember that Alabama game, like, damn, Moose Muhammad was actually not that bad. By the way, Max Johnson was the guy throwing him the football, not Connor Wegman. What am I trying to say here? I think that they have some pieces. And I think that Mike Elko's a really good defensive coach, a really good defensive guy. And he's got some players there. Now, here's the thing about A&M that I want everybody to understand. They have so much just turnover that a Baker would love it. Guys, you're replacing pretty much an entire defensive line. You lose arguably the best linebacker in the SEC last year in Edgerrin Cooper. You do bring in some portal guys like Des Ricks, but I look at them and really ask the question, do you know what you're really going to get from them? What do I expect from them? Now, they bring in Colin Klein as their offensive coordinator from Kansas State. If you remember, they actually made a run for Mike Denbrock. And I think that they want to be a very tough and physical team. And, guys, there are still a lot of pieces that were on that run of Jimbo just recruiting really highly talented dudes. A lot of them are still there. But defensively, I know that they brought in Nick Scourton from Purdue. I know that they have Shamar Turner, who will be back. DJ Hicks, that will be back. Shamar Stewart, who will be back. Guys that are really good. I think Shamar Stewart, Nick Scourton, and Shamar Turner are one of the just pieces of going to be what might be one of the better defensive lines that you face. And Mike Elko's really good at scheming stuff up. Guys, Brian Kelly, your head coach, actually hired him to be his DC before he went to A&M. So even Brian Kelly, some of Brian Kelly's biggest and most successful defenses came under the tutelage of Mike Elko. But I am not in the camp, okay, of being one of those guys that looks at Texas A&M and says that, well, they have a lot of talent, they're going to have a lot of success. I don't know if it's fair to say that. I think when a team like Texas A&M has the track record that they do, a lot like what LSU went through at the end of the Ed Orgeron era. You know, Brian Kelly had a lot of question marks that he had to answer coming into the SEC. You know, like I remember a lot of people nationally saying, well, Brian Kelly's going into the SEC. No way, no how can he win the SEC West. He did it in year one. Did he have a little bit of a step back in year two? Yes, but what do you know about Brian Kelly? Is that he can form an offense and go in the portal and find a quarterback and identify a quarterback that can be a Heisman Trophy and national championship contending type quarterback, a transcender. I see the talent on paper. There's just nothing there that would believe me to say that you know what you're getting. Now, that doesn't change how tough this game can be at Kyle Field, which you have not had tons of success with. I'm struggling with this one. I think you're going to be in a situation where either you're having more of a promising year than you thought that you did or that you would. I think that you, at this part in your season, are thinking to yourself, like, if you upset USC, or I say upset, if you beat USC, if you upset, and I think it will be an upset, regardless of what the betting line says, if LSU beats Ole Miss, I think on paper it will be an upset to people. Now, not in the betting line, it is what it is, but because of what Ole Miss did in the portal, I don't give two shits what Vegas says it is. The public perception will say, man, you know what? Ole Miss had all that talent and couldn't do shit with it. Went to LSU and lost. You know, man, to this point, you're really only tested very vigorously. Now, you're tested, but not highly tested. You're not as tested as when you go or you're not as tested. You know what I'm trying to say. Look, this game, though, this is what holds me back. What holds me back is that I think that Mike Elko is going to have a really physical football team. And to be real with you, that does scare me. You know, you've been really finesse at times. And I'm not saying that being finesse and even on the offensive line, you've been pretty physical, is not going to stop you. But, man, look, they have a really good defensive line unit. Does Texas A&M. And when you have a really good D-line unit and you can win up front, it's going to be a battle. A really good defensive line, in my opinion, is going against the best offensive line in the country. It's going to be a bloodbath up front. Guys, they got some talent, man. They really got talent. You know, Noah Thomas is a kid, a junior, 6'6", 200 pounds, along with Ja'Day Walker, who's 6'4". They got some big-body receivers along with Moose Muhammad, who I think might be the biggest sleeper at receiver in the SEC. I just question everything around them, though. I don't know what I'm going to get from Colin Klein. I do want to see Colin Klein come into the SEC and his offensive success. Now, A&M fans that will see this video will tell you, well, Blake, that's very ironic. You had 32 players last year, or the first year that Brian Kelly came in, and he went in the portal and he won the SEC West. Well, there are no more divisions. Okay, you can't win the SEC West. Where are they at? I don't necessarily know if I like some of the things that Colin Klein's done, but I think that they're going to be a team that likes to do some play action stuff. They want to be explosive at times, but I really think that they want to be a real tough, physical, downhill, down throat type of football team. Do they have the offensive line that can do that? I know they got the backs. I know that they have the running backs that can do that. And, you know, look, if any of you respect our good buddy, Carter Bryant, he is very high on Connor Wegman. Very high on Connor Wegman. And I think Connor Wegman's got a lot of traits, a lot of really good traits. You know, at the end of 22, he had really blossomed into something. They had done some really good stuff with him down the stretch. You know, they come a point or a field goal close to beating Ole Miss that year when they went to a Sugar Bowl, and then they beat you, the SEC West champion, and he was the quarterback for that. I just think that you got to out-athlete them. I don't know if they have the athletes in the secondary. I don't like Des Ricks is going to be there. He's a 5-star corner that transferred. I have not seen anything from Des Ricks. So I think that you can beat them out there. I truly do. I do think that their safety play is fine, or their safeties is fine, you know, or nickel, I should say, too. But Bryce Anderson's not that bad of a player. He had a pretty productive season last year, I thought. Dalton Brooks, you got in there. BJ Mays, senior. I don't know. I think you can out-athlete him. I think it's going to be a tough physical game, though. You don't have always the velour, I guess, of going into Kyle Field. Like, man, look, the last 2 times you went in there, you've lost. Jimbo was the coach of that. So we'll see how all of that pans out, how all of that plays out. I still think, man, I still lean to you winning that football game for whatever it's worth. And so, you know what, man, like, do I think that LSU, as an example, like, could they lose at Kyle Field? Yes, they could. If LSU goes 9-3, I could see them losing to A&M. Like, legitimately, I could see that being one of the losses. But if you're just putting it on paper, I don't think they're better than you. Actually, I know that they're not better than you on paper. Not right now. They aren't. So now you start asking the question, like, hey, man, you got a tough game in USC. Can your defense get any better? Tough game against Ole Miss. Can your defense get any better? and then you legitimately look at this one, for me, A&M at Kyle Field, probably midday or at night. Actually, it is going to be midday or at night. Game will not be at 11 a.m. Buddy, it's one of those games you got to put a question mark to. I really do believe that, but I think you can win. All right. I really do think you can win. You better win. Let me say this too. A lot of people questioned our buddy Josh Pate about Texas A&M being a better program in 3 years over LSU. I don't agree with him on that. I agreed with him on the LSU thing. I didn't agree with him on A&M. I thought you should put somebody else there. Man. Josh is putting all his stock in that Mike Elko is going to be really good. And look, the dude's really good at Josh is really good at what he does. I just don't know if I can see that at the current moment. And I respect the shit out of Josh, like really, really do. I just don't know if I can see it. I think that for me, there's just too many question marks that I haven't seen answered yet. I mean, Mike Elko's only been a head coach for 2 years, and now he's with the big boys. Paul L. Martin says it doesn't help that we go to A&M on a back-to-back road trips after Arkansas. I agree with that, but it's not at the end of the season this time. They could be figuring things out. I can agree with that. And look, back-to-back road games can be tough. Back-to-back road games can be tough. But I don't think that shit should stop you. I really don't. I really don't. I agree with you, but you're coming off a wounded Arkansas, or what I think will be a wounded Arkansas. You know, Carter doesn't like back-to-back road games. I don't know. A lot of teams won back-to-back road games last year, though, in the conference. Okay, let's get out of here. I got things I need to do right quick. We will see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a good one. Oh, our good buddy Stephen Fry says, love it or hate it, Moffitt going to bring the grit to A&M. That's true. That's true. We'll see y'all tomorrow, man. Y'all have a good one. Peace.